Naomi, who is a current student at LBS for the
Imperial.
MIM program. Sorry, I'm so sorry. At Imperial College Business School. Imperial College Business School, yeah. So we will start off with an introduction by Naomi herself. So please.
Yeah. So, hi, my name is Naomi O'Donnell. I'm Japanese, Irish, and Swiss. I graduated from HEC Lausanne, and I just started my master's in international management at Imperial College Business School.
Okay. So the format is this way. If you have any questions, Mr. Sanjay and Mr. Umberto, you can type it in the chat box and I will ask her. Till then, I'll be asking my own questions. Now, the point about this, the thing about the chat box is that if everybody talks at the same time, we will not be able to hear each other. So it's better if you type in the questions and I can ask her. All right. So for now, let Naomi, you could tell us like you what was your experience yesterday since she told me a few minutes ago that she just joined her first class. It was the first day yesterday. So Naomi, could you tell us something about yesterday at
Yeah.
Imperial College?
So it was more like the first day of induction week. So that's when they really talk about the program and how the year is going to be structured, and you meet your classmates and so on for the first time. And especially this year was a bit more complicated. It was the first time we were actually seeing each other face to face on campus. So that was also really nice. And of course, because of the situation, my year is probably going to be different than any other year in the business school. So they were explaining how all the students were going to be put into different bubbles, and we're not all going to be on the campus at the same time, and just general information about the program and how it's structured. And I think for the next 2 weeks, it's all about, admin stuff, how the things are organized on campus and so on. And I only start my classes around the 14th. So yeah, for the moment.
Okay.
We experience it.
Hello.
So Yash, I would request you welcome first of all to MBA Center webinar and yeah. Okay, thank you for the mute. Anyway, so we are once
Right.
again we're talking to Naomi, who is an MIM student at Imperial College Business School. I got it right this time. So, okay. So if any questions, you just put it in the chat box, and we will move further with that. Till then, I'll be asking the questions. So we talked about your first day yesterday. Now, why did you select Imperial College Business School? Like okay, where did you do your bachelor's? Let's start off from there for the people here.
Yeah. So I started my bachelor's at HEC Lausanne. So I always knew I wanted to go in the direction of business, but I didn't really know. Like business is so large, and there's so many varieties of aspects of business, but I didn't really know in which part I wanted to be in. So I took this general business approach of the management side. And so it was a 3-year program, and it was a bachelor's in science. It was very quantitative. I had a very, classes that were very mathematical and theoretical, more than other schools, I would say. And I wanted to continue more in the direction of like managerial and a broader aspect rather than in research or theory or very something analytical. So that's why I wanted to go and pursue my education with a master's in management. Yeah.
Okay. So, Pawan, before I go to your question, why did you particularly choose Imperial College Business School?
Well, I was looking more at like programs, like which program and which school was best fitted for me. And the one at Imperial was really the one I enjoyed, like fitted me the best because it has these 3 consultancy projects, and where you can actually gain work experience and professional skills and so on. And that's what really was lacking in my profile. So for me, that was absolutely an essential thing. And other business school might offer one exchange trip or something like that, but Imperial offers up to 3. So I think that's really something that you can't really compare with others. And as well, they have a really strong um, uh, interest in developing leadership skills in students. Like almost 40% of my program will be based on developing those skills, and I think that is as important as having a good understanding of business. So I truly value that, and that's why I chose this program.
Okay. So we'll go to Pawan's question. Why did you choose MIM over an MBA?
Well, because I think MBA, the big difference is the fact that you usually get in when you have already work experience. So when you already have a few years of professional experience, that's when you can get into an MBA and develop further your skills. Whilst I barely have any work experience, I have a few internships that I did a few years ago, but other than that, I wouldn't say that I have like a big baggage of work experience. So MIM was kind of almost my only option if I wanted to go into management. Yeah.
Okay. So your first choice is has been to get into management. So you talked about your internship. So where exactly did you do your internships prior to whatever studies you've done?
Yeah. So I took a gap year between finishing high school and starting university. Even though I already knew that I was going to the business direction, I thought that maybe having work experience at that stage, I would maybe I would be able to narrow it down a bit more. So during that year, I did a few internships. The biggest one that really like that really helped me decide my career path would be the one that I did in Paris in a luxury magazine called OOB. Um, so there, I really like jumped into this world of fashion and luxury and so on, and I was always interested in it, but I never saw the actual professional side of it. So it was super interesting for me personally to discover it and be a part of it and see how I can contribute to it with a business background that I wanted to gain and so on. So I would say that internship was definitely the most impactful one for me personally and for like my career choices and so on. I did other internships in my father's company. So he has like a few branches of different variety of things. So I had the opportunity to go around all different types of industries to see what fitted me the most. And I did an internship in a digital marketing agency. So it's not really the part where you actually create an advertisement and so on, but it's more about how you sell spaces on the internet and promote things and so on. So that was a totally different part of marketing that I'd never even heard about it before. So it's very interesting. I also got the opportunity to see the telecommunication side, and also, I did a few weeks in the startup that we have in the wind energy. So totally different industries, but it was good because seeing all these different things made me really realize that what I wanted to do was be in the luxury and high end industry rather than any other tech industry and so on. So yeah.
So, Yash, before I go to your question, Naomi, how important is an internship? Like especially in India, we do not have this culture of internships per se. Like I had to complete my masters before I could even think of getting a job. That's like
Mhm.
it's pushed into us. So, how important do you think an internship is if you especially want to get into a top B school?
I think it's very important, actually. It's a bit annoying, and I know the struggle because compared to other students, I don't have a lot of internships, even though I did, 4 different companies, even a few weeks or a few months, certain internships and so on. But because they were back in 2016, they almost didn't count,
Okay.
so they really value internships. Like, of course, like I knew this girl that we had the exact same background. She even did a worse GMAT than I did, but because she had already an internship in a big consultancy company, she got accepted in different schools than I've been. So like you can really feel that here, especially in the UK, that they really take extracurricular stuff like outside school experience very seriously.
Very
So if you don't have
seriously.
an internship per se, like if you have no work experience, I would definitely encourage you to do other things than just academic, to at least have that background and not like you have nothing except your grades and so on, you know.
Okay. So, moving to Yash's question, what is the kind of workload under the MIM course at Imperial in terms of hours per week? Commitment, maybe.
Yeah. So when they were explaining yesterday, for instance, we're not going to be frequently in like a class setting, no matter if it's online or virtual. It's very, very little, like 12 hours a week or something. And then 50% of the work will be like you're on your own with your group. Either you're doing group work or you're on your own in the library doing some research or finishing coursework. So they didn't really say an hour, an average hour, but it seems to be quite intense because we have few different every 5 weeks we change subjects. So you have to be really well organized and be prepared to, you know, do all your classwork when they tell you to do them, because 5 weeks really passes up by so fast that there's no time for you to catch up if you just fall behind from the beginning. So it seems to be quite intense. I haven't experienced it yet, but I'm, you know, preparing mentally already. They're already suggesting all these services like, if you're too stressed, come and talk to us. If you're overwhelmed, come talk to us. So it's a bit worrying,
Already.
but
Already.
yeah. So I don't really know what's ahead, but it seems to be quite an intense program.
All right. Um, any particular skill that you prepared during the time from when you got accepted to the school until yesterday, till you actually joined the classes? Any particular area you worked on?
I think organization, like I thought that I was really well organized to begin with, but you already have pre-modules that you need to finish before even starting the courses, and they're mandatory, so you can't even, you have to do them. And if you're planning to move countries like I did from Switzerland to UK, like you have to take into consideration the amount of time and effort that's going to take you as well, on top of all the extra work that they're asking you to complete before starting the program. And there's already a whole career thing starting now because we're doing all the career fairs and so on in like next week, or and then in October as well. So you have all these workshops already about your CV, your motivational letters, and so it's quite a bit of work that you need to complete before even joining the program. So I think that you really need to, if you're not organized already, you really need to develop that skill.
Okay.
For sure.
That's actually quite fast in a sense. You just
Mhm.
joined
Yeah,
yesterday and you
yeah,
already have so many different things going on regarding your career, which is gonna be, I think, after a year or so,
yeah,
minimum a
yeah.
year it takes, right?
Mhm.
So okay, Yash has another question. How is the acceptance rate at Imperial? And a second question, what's an ideal candidate profile for Imperial B School in terms of undergrad score, GMAT, and
Mhm.
experiences? So let's
Mhm.
start with the first one. How's the acceptance rate in Imperial?
Well, when I was working with Dr. Silly, he was saying that this year Imperial was a lot more, how do you say, like they didn't accept as many people as they did the previous years compared to other schools. I don't really know if this is related to COVID or anything like that, but apparently this year was a bit harder. So that's why I was really worried if I was going to get in Imperial at all. And in terms of perfect profile candidate, well, honestly, they're there to help. If you're really into getting into Imperial, you can always contact. They have like like an admission that you can like email and so on, and they're more than willing to answer your questions. They're like, you can send in your CV and motivation letters. They can, no, not motivation letters, but you can send in your CV and they'll give you feedback or what you can add, what you can change, or other things that you might not even thought of putting on your CV. You know, they're there to help. So I think you should definitely use that service if you're planning to go there. And in terms of other things like GMAT, they're not really as strict as other business schools. I had to have a minimum of 600, which is doable, honestly. So on that wasn't really a big problem. And for academic as well, I was surprised that they were not as they didn't require that high of a GPA compared to, for instance, LBS. So, but that was my Swiss grades. It might not be the same for other types of grades, so you need to check that. But when I checked mine for Swiss one, it was not the same. So you have to see it in that. And honestly, and experience, like they seem to be the most relaxed compared to other business schools when I was doing all the applications. Like London Business School, they're really looking into the perfect candidate that's super strong in one of the aspects, either academic or professional or extracurricular and so on. But Imperial, they kind of like take everything into account. You don't have to be extremely strong in GMAT or extremely strong in school, as long as you have an interesting profile like as a person. And the interview really plays a role in that as well. So
Okay. The interview, Sanjay, before I come to your question, the interview that Naomi underwent was really interesting. So, before this question, let me ask Naomi about the interview. How was the interview? What was so weird about it? I
yeah.
mean, we have talked about it. Let them also hear.
So the interview at Imperial is a pre-recorded video. So you're not face to face with a person, or it's not like a Zoom meeting or anything like that. It's actually questions that are pre-recorded, and you have 30 seconds to think of an answer and 1 minute to deliver your answer, and not a second more. But if by 1 minute you're not done speaking, it just cuts off and it goes to the next question. So you really need to be efficient in the way you respond to those questions. And on top of that, it's kind of random between candidates. Like you don't get the same question as another person that might be applying at the same time. And I don't know if it's based on your profile or not, but at least my friend who also applied didn't have the same questions at all. So you can rely on somebody telling you, okay, I had these questions, prepare those, and so on. And for sure, you definitely need to prepare and train for this type of interview if you've never done this type of interview before, because you can't just speak and try to make, like, if you don't know the answer, you don't know the answer. You can't make up things on the spot. Like, you have to know what you're gonna say. So very intense.
Okay. So, yeah, Sanjay has a question. What are the job prospects after an MIM?
Well, here at Imperial, about 60 or 55% of the students graduating go into consulting. Like that's the biggest part of where the students go. And then there's other aspects, like they go into finance, banking, or even into retail, and yeah, and then obviously a bunch of other things. But the biggest part is consultancy. And the thing is, at Imperial, they have such a strong career team. You're like, it almost feels like you're going to be guaranteed a job when you come out. They have this big book of CVs of all the students that they give out to all the employers. They take into account the feedback of employers to integrate into the programs and so on. So they try to make the students fit um, the requirements of the employers, and not just give you a business degree. It's more like, what do employers look for in graduate students and so on. So they really try to adapt the program to those feedbacks. So I really feel like there's a really strong chance of you getting a job after this, and especially if you're going into consultancy, like you would most likely get something.
Okay. Okay, I hope that answers that question. Um, I wanted to ask about the career service program. We talked a bit about it. They have already started discussing it in your first week itself. So, how is the career service program at Imperial College?
Well, really, really good. I was extremely surprised. So even like I said, before you even start your program, they're already there telling you to make a different CV that fits different type of employers. And there's a whole workshop that you need to complete before entering the program. So that's part of their career um, services and so on. And as I said, like they really adapted the program to what employers are looking for. So I really feel like that's a strong key element that almost guarantees you to be able to be a good candidate for a job afterwards. And like yeah, so I don't know if this is particular to the UK, but they start hiring very early on in the year, so like October and so on. So obviously they really prepare us for that already. Um, they they organize this whole career week where we get to meet employers and so on, and the teachers themselves really sell the students, you know, trying to really show that the best students are here and the most prepared and the most adequate for the post and so on and so on. So I really do feel that services are very strong, and if you have any like if you want to train for an interview, they're there to help. If you want them to look at your motivation letter, they're here also to give you feedback. They're really present. So I think it's really helpful, at least until now.
Okay. So, another question. Since we've talked about the faculty, I don't know if you would be able to answer this because it's just been one day. How accessible is the faculty? Like, have you had any contact with them so far, or is it going to be only after a week or so? Are they accessible?
I think they're pretty accessible. They all give out. It depends on like we have this platform called the Hub. So that's
Okay.
where you get all your courses and you get also all the information about the campus, all the electives, and also about all the faculty members and so on. So if you have any questions regarding anything, you can definitely find an email of a person that can help you, you know. And they try to be as present as possible and try to help you and give you access to as many things. But of course, this year it's a bit different. Like you can't have access to all the things that you would normally have access to. So I don't really know yet how they're gonna manage. So I guess I'll see when it starts if you get access to everything.
Okay. What about the student network?
Mm. Well,
Same question.
yeah. Well, when I met my classmates yesterday for the first time, they're all extremely open and they're all extremely ambitious people. You can see that, you know, you can feel that they went through the same struggle as you to be here. So they're really motivated. And definitely the school really um, encourages us to network not between just us as classmates, but also with teachers, with alumni, and all the fairs that we'll have with employers and so on. They purposely make those things just so we can just introduce yourself and have that connection. And they were saying that because it's such an intense program and with all these consultancy projects that we go abroad for, they say that this really brings everybody closer to each other than any other program. So the teachers were saying like, if you have a problem and you're across the world and you don't know anybody, you can always contact that person that went to the same that went through this with you, and they'll always be there to help. But of course, I don't really know that yet, how accurate that is, but they seem to really put that in front, like saying like networking is key and this is what we're encouraging students to do and so on. So, yeah.
Okay, since our discussion has now come to students, people who have gone through the same thing as you did. So let's go back to the thing. How was your preparation for how? What was your preparation like? How seriously did you take your GMAT or GRE,
Mhm.
and how much did you have to work to get into Imperial Business School?
Well, first of all, I completely underestimated the amount of work that it would require me to go through all this process. So I'm really glad that I found MBA Center because Dr. Silly really opened my eyes, saying like you need to put yourself a lot more forward because all the other students are going to do the same. So you need to really put yourself there, sell yourself that you're the best student, and so on. Obviously, without lying and exaggerating, but there's certain things about you that you didn't think to put in the CV that experts like him will tell you how to put that and how to make that as a valuable skill and so on. So first of all, I totally underestimated how competitive it was, and also the GMAT. I totally underestimated the amount of work that it would require you because it's such a unique exam. I've never been through anything close to this. So yeah, you definitely need to find your own way of passing this. I think everybody has their own way of going through this. I don't think it's applicable to everybody. My technique or somebody else's. So just be prepared for that. And that is absolutely a requirement that they ask from all business schools. So there's no way around it. So, and the earliest you can get it done, the better, because well, first of all, if you go through a pandemic like I did, you don't need to go through the online version, which is horrible. So try to get it done with, and also without that, they can't give you an offer or anything like that. And I realized yesterday that I got an offer really late compared to all the students because I had to do the online version and so on. So
Okay.
that was additional pressure because I was doing all my exams for BA at the same time. So just get yourself organized. Don't do it at the same time. And yeah, be prepared.
Okay. Okay. So, what about extracurricular activities? I know that this year you have the COVID thing, so you all will be put in bubbles. But apart from that, in general, let's talk about it. What were you expecting before the pandemic thing blew?
Yeah,
What were you expecting from the school in terms of extracurriculars?
yeah. Well, they have many student clubs. Uh, and they're not just simple clubs of students gathering around and doing their thing. It's really like, well, certain clubs are really supported by the school, and they will help you get in touch with, like, let's say I want to get into the luxury club, so they will really help us network with people from that industry and create some events and so on. So certain clubs are really effective in your career and so on, and certain clubs are more like for fun, just gathering around and all that. And they're planning to open all the clubs. Just don't know in which format it will be. Is it going to be online, or is it going to be half face to face and the other half online? Like that's not really clear yet. It's not really open. It's not open yet. We can only start applying, I think, next week or something. So don't really know about that. And all the, for instance, normally there's an event when you arrive where it's a welcome event. It's a huge party at the Natural History Museum in London. So it looks amazing. But of course, this year it got postponed to January. So it's not really a welcome event anymore, but at least we get to
Yeah.
experience it. So they're trying their best to make this a normal year and give access to all the things that you want to. It's just we don't know what are the limits to that, and it all depends on government regulations. So yeah.
But don't you think that in January you will already know a lot of people, so the party will be more fun?
Yeah, that's what we're saying. It will be fun because we'll already know everybody.
You know a lot of people. So yeah. So I want to get into the financing aspect of the
Mhm.
MIM. So any advice, like what is your take on the scholarships that the school offers? Are there enough scholarships and stuff like that? Could you give us a bit more insight if you have
Well,
a clue
yeah.
about this?
I do realize that the tuition fees are really expensive in the UK, and no matter which school you're gonna go, it's gonna be extremely expensive. And they do have scholarship offers and so on. You can always sign up for them. Um, but for instance, I didn't sign up for one, and I got a scholarship. I didn't get full scholarship. I just got like 1/3. So it's kind of like almost the like lowest scholarship you can get. But I didn't really apply for one. I don't really know what are the criteria to get one. Um, I don't know if my grades were that amazing that I deserved the scholarship, but yeah, I don't really know how the process works. I know that you can sign up for one when you're applying for your to go to the
So
school.
you so you have to apply for it right when you are applying for the course itself, for the seat
If I'm
itself.
not, yeah, if I'm not mistaken, there's a way that you can say that you're looking for a scholarship. I think it's when you're doing the whole application process, you can say that you're looking for one.
Okay.
But yeah, as I mentioned, I don't really know exactly how it works because I didn't apply myself. I just got one, so I don't know.
Okay. Edwin, welcome to MBA Center webinar with Naomi. So for the rest, you can still put your questions here because I am asking all the questions I understand, but you are allowed to ask your own questions. So yeah, so financing, we talked about financing, and now let's move to the classes. Any particular course that you were really interested in to join in, like when you join Imperial, you're like, okay, you look at the what do you call it, prospectus, and you're like, okay, this is the one I want. Anything like that?
Yeah. So in the mandatory courses that everybody takes, there was one I was really interested in, which was product and brand management, because it's
Okay.
more related to what I want to do afterwards. So that was definitely one of the classes that I wanted to take part in, and also one that was called Innovation in Technology, which I think is so important today to have an understanding of what that means and how you can apply that in your own situation and so on. So those are the two definite courses that I was really interested in. And for the electives, you're free to choose 5 or 7 electives out of, I'm not even sure how many they have. And in those ones, they did have things like family business, which is definitely something that I would be interested in to learn. If like I didn't even realize that there was a different approach to a family business to a normal business, so that's why I was interested in that. And yeah, I think, and then of course there's always the classic courses like economics and finance and corporate organization and so on. So those are the ones that I feel comfortable with. Yeah.
Okay, you mentioned that you're interested in the luxury segment when you go further. Any advice for, let's say, let's keep that aside for a while. Any advice for budding consultants? Like, what are the courses that they can look into at Imperial, which are particularly for consultants, if you can?
Yeah. Well, I think really the whole course itself is really structured around people who want to become consultants. So afterwards, it's more like the general course is more to give you the career aspect of consultancy, and then the electives are more to tailor it in the sense of like what interests you more and what's the most important for you and so on. So you can choose then, but I think in general, everything, like the whole course itself, will give you the opportunities to work in consultancy. Like they give you the knowledge of the whole aspect of business. So not only managerial, but marketing and finance and accounting. So you're gonna be exposed to everything anyway. So I feel like those are the skills that you need as a consultant, that you understand all the concepts of business. So yeah, I feel like in general the program is meant for consultancy rather than anything else.
Okay. So, luxury. Let's coming back to luxury before I then move on to the MBA Center and everything. Luxury, the department. Like, what is your core interest in that? Like, where would you see yourself?
Well, I would like to be, for instance, a consultant at McKinsey in their luxury and fashion department, for example. So I can
Okay.
be a consultant, but more precisely for that industry. Or like obviously Mackenzie is extremely competitive, so I have to have other backup plans if that doesn't work. So for instance, I would like to be an in-house consultant for a brand, for example. Or brand management is also similar in that sense, where you get to overview like the whole entire process of the like entire aspect of the brand. So it's
Okay.
yeah. So those are the ways that I would integrate myself into that
Okay.
industry.
Okay. So, since you completed your bachelor's degree just before you came here, like let's say a few months before, do you have any other students from your school who have joined Imperial College along with you?
No, not really.
Okay. Any other business schools that they've joined?
Yes, a lot of business school background students applied, but surprisingly, many other students who do not necessarily have a very um, strong business background also applied. So, for instance, I had a friend. I met this girl yesterday that was more into statistics and not business. It's like statistic and management. So
Okay.
it's not really the same as what I did as HEC and so on, but she still is doing the same course as I am. And the interesting part of Imperial is that they have this international management, so the one that I applied for, which is for more people who has a stronger business background or an analytical background. And there's this other program called Masters in Management, which is for people who have never been exposed to business before. So, for example, a lot of people who have a arts degree or literature or history and so on, or anything that is not business can apply there, and like they have access to the same type of courses, just not as like
Intense.
intense. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, you answered my other question. I was going to. The next question was what is the prospect for all these literature students and stuff like that. So, okay. Now, coming back to your, when did you meet Dr. Hubert Silly? I think you worked on your GMAT with him.
Well, actually, I first started my GMAT um, tutoring with Réussir le Gmat, which is the French tutoring for GMAT.
Okay.
And I did all my courses with them. And when I was ready to take the exam and so on, and I had this 1 hour free with a expert in the industry, which was Dr. Sini. And that's when I first met him, and he read my CV and my motivations letter and so on. And yeah, and that's when I realized that I needed his help to develop my CVs and so on a bit better. And it's really a joke when you compare my CV before and after. So yeah, it really helped me.
So, for prospective applicants, let's come to the motivational letters. Like everybody, I don't know if everybody knows or not, but there are different types of letters. Like you have to write, there are mini essays, and then there are long essays. So, could you give us a slight idea of what you should put into your letter of motivation?
Yeah. So for Imperial, it's one letter, one motivation letter, which is 2 pages max,
No
and
other mini essays?
no mini essays in Imperial. For other business schools, such as London Business School, they have mini essays, and there's
Mini essays.
about 20 mini essays. I
I
don't
know.
remember exactly the amount, but there's a lot of mini essays. But
Okay.
the thing is, you can use the same content from both, and just one you have to develop more than the other, and so on. But yeah, essentially, you have to include what you did in your bachelor's and why are you qualified to be in this master's program. um, what do you want to do afterwards? What are your career aspects? How do you see yourself after the master's? Then how can you contribute to the school? So either by participating in clubs, or being part of the student body council or things like that. How would you participate being there? And then also, why choose this school over any other school and this program? So you have to really communicate what interests you the most and why you chose this rather than something else. And then also, I think it's interesting to put something that would differentiate you from other people, because that's like the really basic structure of a motivational letter. So, for instance, me, I talked about my multicultural background and how this impacted me in my life and my career choices, because it's so unusual to see a Japanese Irish living in Switzerland and so on. So that was my thing to differentiate myself. So I think everybody should have that one thing that they should include, so to be able to remember who you are and so on. Like, you know.
Okay. Um, Before I forget, I have a question. What is the diversity? What is the diversity of the class in at Imperial? Is it a highly diverse class, or is it still a little skewed? What
No,
would you say?
it's extremely diverse. There was, I think, 60% of the students are from Asia, and then there's a strong like 20% that are from Europe, and then a bit from everywhere else around. And but the thing is, since half of us are doing online, I couldn't really see
Ah,
all the
yes.
nations and so on. So I could, like, when I met people from yesterday, they were mostly Italians, but I'm sure
Okay.
we're much more diverse than that when they showed us the
Okay.
the graphs and so on. So yeah.
Okay. There's a question. Okay, how much time is given to find a job in UK after masters before our visas expire? Do you have a study visa or something?
No, so I have a EU
Uh-huh.
nationality, so I don't
So
need to have a visa. So I don't really know how it works.
exactly, the Schengen visa or something, you still have it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know if you would be able to answer this. How much time is given to find a job in UK after masters before our visas expire? But I think Naomi already mentioned that they help you with the career service program
Hmm.
right from the beginning,
Yeah.
so you
Hmm.
should be set with a job by the time it
Yeah.
ends.
Yeah, no, that's true. Like, since all the hiring and all of that kind of starts in October, you already know or not if you're gonna get a job at the end. Like, I think most of us will get something already in October, and it will secure us for when we graduate. But I'm sure even if you don't get anything then, just graduating from Imperial, it will open a lot of doors in London, particularly because everybody knows what Imperial is and so on. So I'm sure you would find a job pretty easily.
Okay, so you shifted to London in the past week,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So how is the sorry, I'm coming to current events. How is the situation right now?
Well, I mean, masks are mandatory in any closed space and so on, but it does feel pretty normal, to be honest. Like, it feels like we're coming back to normal. Like, everybody's living their lives as almost nothing happened, to be honest. It's just obviously certain things are not available yet. For instance, clubs and so on are not open, or concerts or football matches are all canceled for now because they gather too many people. And and also, maybe I say this because Imperial gave me this opportunity to be on campus, whilst many other schools are completely online, at least until January. So at least for me, it doesn't feel like, we're that impacted with COVID. I hope that it's a good sign that we're going back to normal rather than,
Mm-hmm.
being ignorant and just creating another spike. But let's just hope it's a good sign.
Okay, on that note, let's talk about London as a place where you would want to work
Hmm.
in the coming years. I think you chose Imperial also because of its location in
Yeah,
London. That
yeah.
was one of the prime things. So, what do you think? Why do you think London is the place to be?
Well, first of all, I had a personal preference for London. I always wanted to be in a big city, but I also wanted to be in a English-speaking country and not too far from Switzerland. So that's it. Kind of narrowed it down to London. And also, I don't know how it is where you are, but in Switzerland, we have very limited job offers. Like, there's not a lot of things that, and a lot of people are really well educated. So it's really hard to find something. You could be spending a year or two just looking at something, even if you have a bachelor's and also a master's. Whilst I think that London, it's such a huge city, and yeah, I just feel like there's more opportunities. There's so many companies, so many international companies that are looking for such a variety of people, and not just the same UK that grew up here and so on and so on. Whilst in Switzerland, it's kind of like that. It's like you have to be Swiss, you grew up here, you know the culture, and so on. So I feel like UK is a lot more international. They will hire a much diverse group of people than where it is in my hometown. So that's why I chose to go to London.
Okay. London, yeah. And any plans? Are you planning to stay on in London after your Imperial, or do you have any plans to move to other multicultural cities? Like, for example, Singapore is one,
Mhm.
and another one is Dubai, which are the new cities. So, new, what do you call it? New multicultural hubs. So, any thoughts on those?
Well, for now, I'm definitely going to try to stay in London for a few more years after my master's, just because moving countries is so exhausting that I want to enjoy my a few years here and then maybe consider moving into another country. I definitely would like to go to other big major cities like this before settling back to Switzerland, because in the end, my end goal would be to go back to Switzerland at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, yeah, I would like to explore and visit more and try new experiences elsewhere. But in the short term, like the next few years, I'm definitely gonna stay here in London.
Okay. So I think we're almost coming to the end of our webinar. If you have any other questions, could you just put it in the chat box in the we are at almost at the end of our webinar. So I'll just ask you a few questions till they if they want to ask any other questions. So regarding skills, what particularly do you want to learn in the next year? What exactly is it that you thought of before joining this MIM?
Well, I feel like HEC really taught me everything that I needed to know about business and how it works, the market, everything's like surrounding that. So I really have a good understanding theoretically,
Mm-hmm.
but I really wanted. I felt like HEC didn't teach us how to like put us forward and be managers. Like I don't feel like they gave us that impression. So Imperial, because of the three experiences and the really strong focus on leadership, I really hope to develop that skill of being more of a manager rather than just an academic in business, and develop those more communication skills and just basically becoming a better leader in a real business environment rather than just all theoretical and stuff. Yeah.
Okay, Sanjay has a question. What specializations does Masters in Management have at Imperial?
In what sense?
If you would explain to us in what sense, Sanjay, even I am a little confused with this question. So, till then, I had a question. Yes, you were talking about the three international experiences that you're going to get. Or was it is it an exchange program per se, or is it internships?
So we get these. There's two that are included in the program, and then there's one additional one that you can also choose as an elective. But
Okay.
basically, you travel to a different city, one in Europe and one international. So normally it should be this year either Singapore or New York or something like that, and it's to work with a company, a local company from those cities, and solve a problem basically. So it's actually like a real consultancy project and a job that so you actually gain experience, and you're really like, it's not just there and you're taking notes of what the CEO is saying. It's really like you're going to solve a problem, you're going to take part in it, and yeah, so you're really gaining something out of this as well.
So it's not necessarily an exchange program, rather an
Mm,
internship, an
yeah,
exposure program.
yeah, yeah.
All right. So yeah, that would be interesting actually.
Hmm.
So, but do you think with the COVID you'll be allowed to travel countries, or you'll be stuck in quarantine in a different country?
Well, I think the European country will be able to do it, hopefully, because it's a short weekend. But then the international one, where we might go really, really far abroad, that's questionable. It all depends on how that country is doing with COVID or how we're doing with COVID, if there's quarantine or not. So it's really hard to say, but it is next year. So it's the next spring. So I'm hoping that by then, we're either
Yeah,
going to
by then.
travel with restrictions or there's going to be a vaccine or something. So yeah.
Yeah. Let's hope for the Russian vaccine to work. Okay, what specializations does MIM have at Imperial, like finance, marketing,
Mm,
operations? So
okay,
that
yeah.
is the question.
Yeah. So there's big focus on finance. So financial management as well as corporate finance and advanced finance. So there's a lot of people in my year that are really strong in that. So I think, yeah, finance is definitely a key aspect. And then there's not much accounting. Economics is very strong as well. Just in general, the understanding of the market and so on. Like I feel like there's a lot around that, and also a big part is just like organizational behavior and more like the behavioral part of like working in a company and so on. I think those are the three big things that you will see in Imperial. Of course, if you choose then your electives accordingly, you might have even more finance or other things that you might choose that are completely different, like more technological like aspects or more managerial and so on. So then you can kind of like tailor it to what you're looking for. But yeah, finance, economics, and behavioral science are kind of like the big things, I think.
Okay. So I think we're done with our questions unless anyone has anything else to ask. I'll ask the last one. Okay. What would be your advice to students, sorry, applicants, in terms of number one, their, since we've already talked about the motivational letter and all that, so in terms of their internships, number two, extracurricular activities, these two.
Yeah, I'm sure that it's like for me, it was extremely hard to get both. Like, I think it's so hard to ask a student to be academically perfect, have extracurricular activities, and do tons of internships. I feel like that's so like impossible to do. But for some reason, there's a lot of people who are able to do it, so it's hard to contradict that. But I think the most important thing is obviously if you have a strong academic background, then it will always excuse the fact that you're lacking experience or you don't have a lot of curricular activities, because if you excel in school, like obviously like you don't have a lot of time for other things. And then if like academically you're a little bit like weaker, then I would definitely suggest you, if you can do both curricular and internships, that to focus on one. So either during the summer do a full internship somewhere, uh, even if it's not necessarily the industry that you want, just to show that you did something, that you're able to work in a company, that you're able to adapt, that you were able to do things out of your comfort zone and so on. So I feel like definitely if you don't do anything else, try to get a summer internship. And if summer internships are not a big thing where you are and it's really hard to find, then try to do as many extracurricular things that you can do. Like even just joining the student clubs in your uni and just saying that, oh, I did this project. It was a marketing research that lasted maybe just 1 week, but you can always put that in your CV saying like, I did this, I wrote this article, or I participated in this student club, or I was the president of the finance club and so on. Those are really like, they really like those things as well. So they're as important as internships. So definitely maybe do one or the other. Best to do all of them, but it's super hard. So yeah.
Okay. So, Naomi, thank you for your time and
Thank you.
your patience. Actually, I have been asking you a lot of questions and been annoying you for weeks for this webinar. So, thank you so much. Thank you to all the students who are here, and we hope to see you soon again for the next webinar. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.